keep talking some baseball and let's go to the phone. Or wait, I'm sorry. Let's talk some football and go to the phone and bring in Troy Renck of the Denver Post, who covers the Broncos and the NFL at large.
Can I ask him those questions today? I mean, can we
about
get
about baseball?
What he wrote about basketball today. Troy Renck can't get enough of it. He's writing about. I pick up that he's writing about baseball. He's writing about basketball. He's probably going to write about women's soccer before the
Can I
league's
ask him
out.
a football question
Sure,
first?
Yeah, okay.
Troy Renck of the Denver Post on the phone. Troy, let's deal with what happened before practice even started. The guys came out to warm up, to stretch. The first song was Georgia on My Mind. The second song was Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. Is this any indication that Demaryius Thomas is close to coming back? A Georgia kid, signed, sealed, and delivered?
Well, I think it was a poke at him. They were having some fun with it. There's no indication that it's close. But again, it's been linked forever to Des Bryant's negotiations. Des Bryant made some progress in his talks, so he showed up at Cowboys camp recently. But Gary Kubiak said after practice he's not worried about it. He believes something can get done. That it's certainly he's not concerned that there will be kind of this animosity. He's texting Demaryius. He texted him again today. But I think they were having a little fun with Demaryius, and as they did at Peyton Manning's camp as well when they photoshopped him in, which is a good sign that you can kind of poke fun at a teammate and a player, and that it's not reached the point of acrimony where they have major problems.
Anything else going on out there before I get to my questions? You
As
said
long as
earlier.
our football question, I want to talk
Well,
about
yeah,
football first.
my commentary. I want to ask him.
Okay.
You said we'll get back to that. You
Okay.
didn't, but I want to ask him. Tell us anything else that's going on before I get into what I want to ask you.
Well, some news items. I just wrote for the website. It should be posting shortly. Juwan Thompson is not practicing at fullback. A little bit of a surprise, but I talked to Juwan. He's just playing running back for now. That leaves James Casey and Joe Don Duncan at fullback. Antonio Smith was not here. He is excused, so he will not be fined, even though this is a mandatory minicamp. He's excused. Gary Kubiak, Woody mentioned the possibility of resolution this week, maybe Wednesday, but the DA's office, we talked to them briefly today out of Texas, and they said no update, but there could be resolution this week in Smith's child abuse allegation case. Remember, importantly, no charges have been filed. Still, the NFL could discipline him. Even if charges aren't filed, the NFL could discipline him. And then left tackles, Gary Kubiak talked positively about Sambrailo. He admitted that he's a quick learner, but said that some of the stuff they wanted him to improve on is strength, ability to handle edge rushers. Kubiak said they won't know until they put the pads on, which is a fair assessment that while Sambrailo has been very impressive for a young guy, a lot of what the tackles, he and Schofield both, they need to see him with the pads on before you start drawing any conclusions.
Okay. I'm going to throw you names. I did a commentary called Yes or No. I'm going to ask you the same question, and I'm going to ask Les to jump in here too. I'm going to give you 15 names. Some of them are tied together. You just go yes or no. Zach Dysert.
This is what is the thing? Are they going to make the team? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
I got word from one of the coaches that they're in love with Trevor Siemian, that he's a fast learner, he's smart from Northwestern, that he's participating in some 7-on-7 drills, and they really like him. Can they really afford, even though he's playing some 7-on-7, but he's not going to be able to play at the beginning of the season or play this year? You think that Zach Dice, that they'll keep 4 quarterbacks, or that
Well, they could stash him on the practice squad.
Yeah, well, but that's where they stash the other guy, Zach Dysert, really. So.
Well, I see Dysert making it initially, and then Simeon replacing him when he's healthy. He's coming off ACL surgery, so he's not going to be a factor. Until September, October, perhaps at the earliest.
Yeah. Okay. Capri Bibbs and Jeremy Stewart.
No.
Both of them. Okay. Ronnie Hillman.
No.
Okay. Ooh. So who are the running backs then? You mentioned it. Juwan Thompson is not training at fullback, so he's going to probably be the number 3 running back.
You got Joe Don Duncan and James Casey, who might be considered
fullbacks,
running backs
but
as well.
they got to keep a 4th running back, I would think.
Well, yeah, in fairness to that question, I would say Capri Bibbs and between Bibbs and Stewart, one of them makes it. I would be surprised if Hillman isn't used to be is trade bait during camp, where he can help another team. Doesn't particularly profile well in this offense. Monte Ball's going to be there. We know C.J. Anderson's going to be there, obviously, but I would say between Stewart and Bibbs, it's one or the other, and I would trade then Hillman.
Yeah, and you and I totally agree on that you get one of those conditional draft choices of how he helps whoever they send him to. Okay, Ryan Harris, emergency sign after Ryan Clady goes down. We've thought here that Chris Clark would move back to left tackle. Don't see any sign of that happening, but Ryan Harris has played in the system before. Is he going to make this team?
Oof. I mean, he hasn't even worked. He's just not starting to work out because he needed some conditioning. Is he going to make this team? I would say yes, as insurance. I don't see him playing right away, though. I just see him as a security blanket.
I said Joe Don Duncan I thought would make the team. I studied his history. He's an overachiever. He's a guy that could be a utility infielder for them, fullback, tight end, and a super special teams player. Do you see him having a chance to make this team?
I see him being beat out by James Casey. Now, if they carry two, obviously he's in. But Casey is arguably the best special teams player in football last year. So that doesn't help Joe Don Duncan's case. So as we sit here today, I would say Casey over Duncan, and that would keep Duncan off the roster.
Jerry Rivers, outside linebacker, that's kind of interesting, very intriguing, and has the same name as Geraldo Rivera had before he changed his name in college. Geraldo Rivera was Jerry Rivers. Is Jerry Rivers going to make this team, either one of them?
Yeah, Geraldo, no. Jerry, I don't see it. I see Jerry as, I think he was a late camp casualty. They like him. That's why they kept him around, practice squad, but I don't see it.
Okay, I got an intriguing one for you, I think. Connor Barth, Brian McManus, and Smits.
Yeah, that's a great question right now because they need security in that position with Barth. He doesn't have the leg they'd want. I mean, from a roster standpoint, Schmitz would be the best use of funds if he can prove it. The reason I'm hesitating, I haven't seen Schmitz. I mean, he's more on YouTube than we see him at practice. I don't know. I mean, he's this fascinating guy that could kick off, he could do this, punt, he does all these things, but I got to see it in camp. So,
Troy?
I would say status quo. Brent, I would say Barth for me would have to do something unusual not to make it because they already went through the unpredictability of McManus last year. I don't think they want to go through that again.
Well, and Barth is pretty much a lock from 30 to 35 yards, which is going to be the extra point this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Finally, early in the volunteer mini camps, Antonio Smith, who you brought up earlier, really praised Kenny
Anuki.
Yeah. What about the two of them? If you had to guess on Antonio Smith, but more importantly, that because they haven't gone out and gotten any additional help, that Kenny, how do you pronounce his last name? Anuki. Supposedly Antonio Smith said he was a fast learner. He praised him highly in the Broncos. He's been around. He's a guy that can play inside or outside. Do you think he has a chance to make this team?
Yes. And I think he was going to make it last year, and he got hurt. So, yeah, I like his chances, and he plays with an edge and attitude. He's really confident for a young guy. He actually got into it with veterans last year because of his confidence. He thought he was a little bit too cocky during practice. I like his chances. Antonio Smith, it really depends on this court thing. And, I'd say, again, this is just speculation on my part, but it's 60-40 he's on it right now. I mean, they need resolution, and they need to figure out what all the facts are. But if he's going to get suspended, that's another issue. Like, even if he's cleared, no charges filed, but if the NFL says they're going to suspend him, do the Broncos still want that hanging over their season for a backup player? I mean, it's getting near that time where they have to make a decision. And the cap hit, it's $500,000 signing bonus is really, that's all they're on the hook for. So his status has become tenuous at this point. But we just don't know enough about the case. And if they don't file any charges, how much will that sway the Broncos? Or will they then lean on the NFL and their independent investigation to say, hey, if you thought there was enough to suspend him, then maybe they're prepared to move on?
How about my last one? I promise. Norwood.
He should make it. I thought he was for a lot, frankly. But when they picked up the Patton kid from Tampa Bay, now he's clearly in a battle for it. I don't think Isaiah Burst will make it. And, if he just shows something differently than he showed last year, he's reliable. He catches the ball. He just didn't show explosiveness. But for me, Norwood versus Patton is pretty even. Kyle Williams, I know him a little bit because his dad, Kenny Williams, is a GM forever with the White Sox. He's a president now. But I would say Norwood Patton should be a very fascinating battle in camp as to which guy wins that role. Norwood, we got to see if he's healthy from the ACL. But Norwood was the guy last year, Woody. He had won the job before he tore his ACL.
Those are great answers. I threw him at you, Troy. I apologize for that, but you handled it like a sure-handed third baseman, Arenado, who handles every play.
Thank you, Woody. Yeah, that's probably praise being put up with Arenado. Our modern-day Brooks Robinson. His dad, a note on that, his dad, Fernando Arenado, I sent him the paper of that, the Denver Post, because Brooks Robinson was his guy growing up, Fernando, so he was thrilled that comparison was made.
I'm just so glad that the weather has calmed down, because I got so tired of watching that Arenado Rockies time over and over again. They showed it for like 2 straight weeks. I knew more about his family than the family knows.
Troy, thanks for your time, man. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
See you guys.
All right, Troy Renck of the Denver Post. That NFL update was sponsored by Fantasy
Renck,
Sports
blood of the
Combine.
city.
The Fantasy Sports Combine is the ultimate experience for serious fantasy sports fans. It's coming this summer to the Wynn in Las Vegas, July 17th to the 19th. That's a Thursday or a Friday through a Sunday. You're going to see people there rub shoulders, get advice from guys like Adam Schefter, Matthew Berry of ESPN, former coaches Mike Shanahan and Mike Ditka, and many, many others, including Brandon Stokely, former Bronco. They will help you get an edge when you draft your fantasy team. So get your tickets today at FantasySportsCombine.com. Again, that's FantasySportsCombine.com.